Hi everyone.
Hi.
Well, thank you for being here. My name is Arnaud, I work for Baume Mercier. If you do not understand my accent, please let me know. So, I've been in this country for 20 years, but I'm not getting rid of my accent anytime soon. So my name is Arnaud. I've been working with Baume Mercier for a year and a half now. For those of you who are not aware or do not know the brand, Baume Mercier is one of the oldest watch brands in the world. I'm going to get over a few details after that. We're part of a group called the Richemont Group. Richemont Group is, I think, one of the biggest today watch group with a Swatch group in the world, like brands like Cartier, IWC, Panerai, Vacheron Constantin, Jaeger-LeCoultre, etc. And then there is Baume Mercier. So I was tasked with a mission because originally, I'm not from the watch industry. I used to be at Hermès for 10 years. I'm a watch enthusiast. I've been collecting watches for, I think that my first watch was when I was 12 years old or something like that. And I'm fairly close with Richemont CEO, and he told me, listen, we have a project. It's really rebuilding Baume Mercier. The thing about our brand is Baume Mercier in the United States, back in the 80s, in the 90s, and late 90s, it was a brand that every single person knew and every single person was admiring. And today, first, I would like to thank Right Time for having me, but today, after just a few minutes, I'm very, emotional is not the right word, but I'm very pleased because a few of you showed me your Baume Mercier from, I don't know, your parents gave it to you, or a graduation, or a wedding. And this is what the brand is about. The way we describe our brand, we're the friendly brand. We thought it was very important in our effort to redynamize the brand and re-implementing it in the United States to really anchor the fact that we're a very humble brand. We're a brand deeply anchored in the United States, and we're a brand that are made for celebration. A brand that is made for first time, the first time you buy a watch, or a wedding or an anniversary. And this is what the message is about Baume Mercier, is being a friendly brand, a humble brand, and unbeatable for quality value. We're one of the oldest watch brands in the world, 195 years old. We are actually, as of today, the fourth oldest maison still in operation. I think it's important, I'm European, history is a big part of who we are, and the fact that we're part of such a fantastic maison that started in 1830 is quite impressive. So the Mercier brothers starting this in the Swiss Jura in 1830, and then you had the second generation, William Baume and Paul Mercier, who took over the company. And why I'm stopping on these two people is because that's actually not the real birth, but that's actually what Baume Mercier is about today. It's the story of a designer and a watchmaker who met to make perfect watches. And today, in the new era, it's really continuing the same model. Every single watch that we're making needs to be rational in terms of design. And when you see the Baume Mercier logo, that's the Greek letter phi, which means balance. It's a round with a bar in the middle. And to us, it means balance between design and between performance. That's the story of William Baume and Paul Mercier. So today we're continuing this idea. And as I said earlier, really our motto is quality value, because in an era of today where everything is disposable, you are getting something that is made to last at a price that is also fairly competitive. Baume Mercier, as I said, is an extremely strong, legitimate brand. So strong that I was talking to a gentleman earlier, was telling me the story that he was aware of Piaget and Baume Mercier, sharing the same designer. Well, the reality is that Piaget and Baume Mercier are really intertwined because the both companies were merged together at one point. And the reason why I'm saying this is because Baume Mercier back in the day was extremely well known for the thickness of their watches. So we were constantly like competing in different for different prices, and we won the thinnest watch available in 1840, which is something, you know, quite exceptional for back in the day. And so throughout the years, Baume Mercier was always having like this mission of really trying to like push the boundaries for watchmaking, so much that in 1919 we earned like the Geneva stamp, or like the Geneva hallmark. For those of you who are not aware of what it is, it's one of the highest standard for watchmaking, and to this day we still have it. So again, like I'm really anchoring the brand into history because I think it's important for me. A few fun watches also, like to go through the history of Baume Mercier. That's the Chronosonic. It's like a watch that is powered by quartz, but has also like an automatic movement. When the quartz revolution happened, instead of going full quartz, we did things like this, so it was fun. We were very, very strong with jewelry watches for women. I'm not going to spoil it, but next year we're going to come with very interesting things in Geneva, again echoing what we used to do back in the day. So this is why I'm showing these kind of things, but you see like how avant-garde it is for like this year. We're like in 1972 here. Speaking of avant-garde, like we have these models. For those of you who are like really into watches, maybe it reminds you of like a Piaget watch, but well, as I said, Piaget was designed by Jean-Michel Guette, and Baume Mercier was designed by Jean-Michel Guette as well. So this is why you see bridges between the two brands. Again, jewelry, but you see nowadays it's very interesting. If you look at brands like Van Cleef, if you look at brands like Cartier, everybody's going back into this kind of like designs. And Baume Mercier was one of the first of doing this. And it shows like how, you know, rounded the company was. Like that's a watch from 1997. And again, this is what we're trying to like reconstruct together for like this era. So now the company is like is composed of like 4 collections: the Riviera, the Clifton, the Hampton, the Classima. I'm going to talk about all these 4 collections, but this is what Baume Mercier DNA is today. So watch for everyone. You have like sports, dress watch, and again with a very strong design component. And starting with like the Riviera, I mean, for those of you who do not know, the Riviera is an Italian word for coastline. So the Riviera actually is a watch that was designed in 1973. But the 1973 era is an interesting time for watchmaking, because in the 70s, this is when watches were introduced with an integrated bracelet. An integrated bracelet, it's like a bracelet that actually goes into the lugs of the watch. And the first watch that was introduced with an integrated bracelet is the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. You know, it's funny, like, I like to say this because it happened to me. You know, I own 2 Riviera, and sometimes some people say, oh, it looks just like a Royal Oak. And I'm like, I'm a little bit annoyed by this, you know, because the history of this watch is from 1973. The Royal Oak is 1972, 6 months after the Riviera was released. So if anybody tells you, like, well, it looks like a Royal Oak, you're like, actually, you know, that's not. It's very different. It's a dodecagonal versus like an octagonal. And in this era, you don't copy a watch in 6 months. Even nowadays, you do not copy a watch in 6 months. But it's very important for me to anchor really like the timeline of the Riviera, because after that you had the Laureato, after that you had the Santos, after that you had like the Nautilus. And so the Riviera is really up there, one of the first after the Royal Oak. And so today, you know, we're introduced actually like the chronograph into the Riviera, and we have one on display which is like a panda. And the reason why we introduced the chronograph is because we have a strong legitimacy in chronographs at Baume Mercier. We won several prizes from 1892 to the 1950s, and we decided to like do this expertise into our watches. It goes back to what I was saying. We are making watches that are made to last, with a good value, and this is why you do not see us too much into advertising and marketing. We'd rather put our money into watches. So what we're doing right now for the brand is that we're echoing what we used to do back in the day. And this is why we came up with like these dials, because if I rewind to the chronographs here, actually it's the wrong it's the picture on like the bottom right, we're echoing these dials on the flyback. And the more we're going to advance, the more we're going to do new collections, the more we're going to echoing what made Baume Mercier. The second collection I'm going to talk about is the Clifton. So the Clifton, for the history, like every single name has a relationship more or less, except the Classima, with the coastline. So the Clifton is in South Africa. But the Clifton is a watch that was not introduced in 1950s, but what it was inspired by a watch introduced in the 1950s. And what we describe the Clifton like, it's a vehicle for like our in-house movement. And our in-house movement is the Baumatic. The Baumatic was introduced 13 years ago. Back then, when we introduced this movement, it was kind of like a small revolution in the watch industry, because 5 days power reserve, because of like the anti-magnetism properties, were actually like stronger than like the strongest anti-magnetic watch. I cannot name it, but we're very, very excited about this movement. So excited that we decided to put an 8 years warranty. And 8 years warranty back then was a lot. So the Clifton, every single Clifton is equipped with the Baumatic. For the Riviera, you have some watches that are equipped with the Baumatic, and that's it. But the Clifton, you know, like a dressed watch with curved case. I was not a huge fan of the previous model of the Clifton, but this one actually, like, they really nailed it in terms of design, with an integrated crown. It's a modern watch at 39 millimeter. It's extremely sleek, I think. And every single one of the Clifton, actually, like every single collection within Baume Mercier, has a fast strap system. So you can swap from stainless steel to leather or whatever you want, very easy. The third collection is the Hampton, named after like a small neighborhood in the state of New York. Yeah, very budget friendly. I know. Yeah, you know. So the Hampton, you know, was introduced in the 90s, a very, very Art Deco watch, and you can see the evolution. Today, the Hampton is available for like men and women. The reality, it's really our feminine driver. So we're really introducing like more and more Hampton with this kind of like inspiration from back in the day, with like the baguette, the diamond, etc. And you're going to see like more and more of these in the future. So, you know, that's a femininity driver, again, value for money. It's a tank. You don't have many rectangle watches right now. You have Jaeger LeCoultre Reverso, you have the Cartier tank, the Santos, no, sorry, not the Santos, the Panthère. But it's very difficult to find a rectangle watch that actually looks good for a good amount of money. And again, this is really like right down our alley. We're really trying to like make something value, money, and inspiring in terms of design. And finally, the Classima. So Classima is really what I call, whenever you want a dressed watch, super simple, not especially complicated or anything like this, but this watch is actually perfect as a dressed watch. Very thin, comes in various different sizes, and to me it's like the perfect watch also when you start your journey into the Swiss watchmaking. And that's it, you know, like again, I just wanted to do an introduction, like we're really big in straps. I showed you like, to some of you, like the versatility of the Riviera. And this is what we're trying to do with all of our watches, actually, to like make it user-friendly. And you don't have to like come back to right time, even though like, you know, it's a good time to be here. But if you want to like swap your strap alone at home, you can do it on every single model. And everything is available here.